Here's my audience, Ben Leesfeld, and here is my persuasive speech. Gold, glory, and God. According to Dorothy Lippett and Stephen Signesi in their book Native Americans History for Dummies, these were the three motivating factors to why the three most powerful countries, Spain, France, and England, wanted to colonize America. We speak English in the United States, not Spanish or French. Have you ever thought about why this is true? I have. I studied and researched this question in a U.S. history class a couple years ago and found many different answers and reasons. The first was because the English king did not pay the colonists to come here, and he was willing to let them self-govern themselves. The second, the English king was willing to leave them alone and let them practice their own religion without the fear of death. Third, the English king allowed colonists to run their own business, own their own land, and to make their own money. With Spain, France, and England all fighting to claim the lands of the New World for its riches and to conquer and colonize its natives, why then was the English the one that won the country? One answer is in the way they chose to let their colonists self-govern. England gave a lot of power to its people to self-govern themselves. They could make their own rules. They made their own decisions that they needed to make instead of letting a king that's thousands of miles away make them for them. The Spanish and the French style of colonization allowed for very little or no home rule. In the Spanish colonies, the leaders could not make the smallest decisions without writing their queen for permission. This was a very slow process, and by the time the answer or the question even got to the queen, the answer was already discovered or dealt with in a different way. This was very unsatisfactory for the colonists because it was difficult to solve conflicts and to run their colony effectively. In the French colonies, the leaders could make some decisions, but not enough to be good leaders. Like Spain, the French government wanted to maintain absolute control over their colonies. But in the English colonies, the government left them alone. This was huge. This made the English style of colonization the winner. This practice was called solitary neglect. So long as the colony was making profit, the people were allowed to govern themselves. This ability to self-rule was so different from life in England that many people chose to make the trip to the New World and wanted to settle there. Another reason why England was so successful in winning the United States is because the English colonies, people of different nations and religions were welcome. The Spanish and the French styles of colonization were all about converting the natives to their religion at the time, which was Catholic. They believed this was the only religion. It was their duty to save their souls for God. There was no religious freedom. You can imagine how unpopular that was to the natives who already had established their own beliefs and customs. But in the English colonies, the British welcomed all religions. And so large numbers of religious groups moved here with their families to be able to exercise their religion and follow their own beliefs without fear of being put to death, like in the Spanish Inquisition. Again, the British attitude of leaving the colonies alone created a place where people wanted to bring their families and move here in greater numbers than the Spanish or the French. If you would like to learn more about this, you should check out the website America in the British Empire. A third reason why England was so successful in the United States was because the king allowed the colonists to own their own businesses. So they established permanent settlements on the land that was fertile and rich in resources. Because the Spanish and French governments paid its people to come to America, they expected the wealth they had discovered on the new land to come back to them. Therefore, these countries had little to no interest in creating a new Spain or new France in America. This turned out to be a critical decision or difference between success and failure. because when it came down to fight for the land, the new land, France and Spanish had very little people here on the country to actually fight. In the book Dreaming Up America by Russell Banks, Banks writes that unlike Spanish and France, who paid their people to come to the United States, the English colonies were established by enterprising individuals looking to get ahead in life. The people came to begin a new life and a better one. A life where they could call the shots, a life where they could own their own land and work hard and profit from it. As a result, they established many permanent colonies in areas where land was rich and fertile and had a lot of natural resources like lumber and fresh water. This is now called the American Dream. It is the ultimate opportunity. You come here poor, but if you work hard, you can get rich. Needless to say, people were willing to and still are willing to fight for this freedom. The American Dream, and we owe it all to the English style of colonization. If you're still not convinced that England's style of colonization won America, let me give you a few more facts. All you have to do is look around America today and you will see how successful England was in winning the United States of America. Our national language is English. Our primary laws and individual rights arise from the English ideas of justice. Our concept of property ownership is English, and our belief in no taxation without representation is English. So there you have it. The three most powerful countries at the time were all trying to win the United States of America, but England was the clear winner. To review, Spanish colonization was government-sponsored, and it focused on converting the natives to the religion that they believed in at the time was being Catholic, and there was really no other way for them. And they did not allow for any home rule at the time. French colonization was also government funded and also focused on converting the natives, as well as working with them to obtain furs and other resources to be sent home back to France. The only allowed for a minimum amount of home rule. Both styles resulted in only a small number of Spanish and French people coming here to make it their home. But the English style of colonization was not government sponsored. Its people came to begin a new life and for personal and religious freedom. And because of it, when it came down to fight for America, the English had already had a lot of people in the country and wanted their families and their religious beliefs to be safe, so they fought for them. Yes, you can still see Spanish and French influence in the country, but the English style of colonization was definitely the most successful. England won the country from shore to shore because the people came with their families and stayed to become Americans. If you're interested in additional information on this topic, I suggest you read Joy Hacken's book From Colonies to Country, or Ian Staven's book Latino History and Culture. And that's my speech.